What's up, everyone? Thralls of Metal back again. I am Shredlord
and Necrotic Nick,
and I am super pumped to bring you the review of the brand new Mastodon album. Tell them what that album is called, Nicholas.
Hushed and Grim. This comes out on the 29th of October on Reprise Records. This is the band's 8th album, formed in Georgia in 2000, and pretty much have been like steadily evolving their sound over time. I got into them around Remission, and they sound nothing like Remission now. But what they do sound like is still incredible. This band has pretty much kind of been, I don't know, like lurking in the prog scene, sludge metal, kind of everywhere. Now, this is their first release in 4 years after Emperor Sand, which I really enjoyed. And they kind of been teasing a new release for a number of years, and then finally we get one, and lo and behold, it's their first double album. We're talking 2 discs, about an hour and 40 minutes worth of music. And holy shit, it's a lot to absorb, but it's a lot to absorb in a really good way. Now, this actually has a bit of a theme to it. It does deal with grief, processing, loss of life. They lost their longtime manager, Nick John, in 2018, I believe. And a lot of this is sort of tied to that theme. And this isn't the first time that Mastodon has actually done that. Of course, you know, Crack the Sky was tied to Braun's sister dying. Emperor Sand dealt with families processing cancer diagnosis. The Hunter was tied to Brent's brother dying, unfortunately, too. So tragedy has actually inspired a lot of really solid works from these guys. And, you know, instead of kind of like sitting back and just grieving, these guys took that grief and focused it into creative pieces. And they've done that once again, except I say they doubled their efforts, at least as far as music, in terms of like the sheer volume of it. But this album hits like a ton of very emotional bricks. Like, this is a dark, foreboding album, and you can feel it. Like, this kind of takes you on that whole journey of processing grief, and it really does it quite well.
And even though it's an album about grief, that's not to say that it doesn't go without its moments of extreme heaviness. Even, for example, the opening track, Pain with an Anchor, has some riffs in there that recall very early Mastodon, very aggressive, more metal Mastodon. And as this album continues, you hear almost a brand new element of sounds, or a brand new toolbox, kit, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of new sounds on this album, and they sound really great. Everything from a lot of 70s prog stuff, but with a modern touch. Things like the synthesizers, you know, vibing in and out, just like Shine On You Crazy Diamond, or some of the just Nick Mason kind of sounds for the keys were very cool. But while they had a retro feel, they still felt very modern as well.
Yes. And the production definitely kind of lends itself to that. It's very modern production, but it's very well produced. And there's so many layers going on with these, you know, guitars and synths. The bass lines are very prominent, and you have these giant vocal melodies, mostly this time carried by Troy and Braun. Brent is only on here like a little bit vocally, but Brent makes his presence felt with some incredible lead work. Honestly, some of my favorite lead work from him.
I've got to make 2 points that I feel like on this album. Number one, yes, this is probably, as a whole, I think this is maybe the best that Brent has ever composed leads. And what I mean by that is, I feel like he would normally have the improviser's approach, where you know what key it's in and you go off feel and you just kind of vibe it out. Here it seems like he planned it out a little more and was more focused on creating strong melodies and things that played and resonated with the changes behind them, and it sounded incredible. He still has his pentatonic, you know, bluesy Jimmy Page kind of style in there, but he added a little bit of a different element in there as well, really focusing on strong melodic concepts as well. So yeah, that was awesome. And maybe this is the strongest Mastodon vocal performance.
Yes. Honestly, Troy and Braun paired together create some incredible vocal hooks on here. I think Troy sounds particularly good on this. Like, I've always loved his voice, that big raspy bellow. It's, you know, carries with it a lot of weight. And Braun's like a secret weapon. Like, when he started singing in the band, I couldn't believe, wait, that's the drummer?
Oh man,
holy
I remember
shit.
Seeing the clip for the Motherload.
Yeah.
I'm going, what?
And you're like, holy shit, they got a fucking Phil Collins. Who the fuck knew? But on this, just them paired together, again, for most of the album, it's just absolutely amazing. And this is, again, kind of like an all-encompassing Mastodon listen. Like, you get good callbacks to, like, the heavier early material. Like, The Crux and Pushing the Tides. Both of those are kind of reminiscent more of, like, you know, Leviathan, Remission, maybe a little bit of Blood Mountain. The drum work on here is a little bit more furious, too, which, since Braun has been singing, I imagine a lot of focus has to go between singing and drumming. But on this one, I don't know, he found some energy boost, and he's back to doing some really crazy fills again, more double bass work, and I don't know, it just sounds more aggressive.
Maybe he's just more used to singing and playing drums at this point because, he's on point, and you're hearing some fills that we haven't heard in a long time. But there's also some newer type nods as well. The closing track, Gigantium, to me, had a opening riff and a riff throughout the song that almost felt like The Creature Lives 2.0. You know, it had that kind of a vibe. There's even a section in Gobbler of Dregs, which I know is another track that you absolutely love. There's a double guitar line in there that my brain thinks of a million songs at once. Almost gave me like a subdued Wasted Years by Iron Maiden feel, which I thought was really, really fucking sweet. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, there's a lot of different things and a lot of new ingredients in this Mastodon album that I think made this really special. Yeah,
I think kind of that unifying tone, except for, you know, maybe Gigantium, which a lot of this is dark, a lot of this is somber, and again, theme of the album, it makes sense that it would be. But Gigantium actually feels like kind of like, you know, the silver lining, like the sun poking through the gray clouds. It's a little bit more uplifting and more triumphant. And honestly, when I was listening to this, I thought that Gobblers of Dregs should have been the closer because it's the big epic. And, you know, you can definitely make a case for it, but Gigantium felt more appropriate because you've just gone through processing grief and all the highs and lows and confusion and all that. This feels like that's coming out of the fog. Like, you've processed it, you accepted it, and you know what? You kind of triumphed over all of it. I kind of like that feel. But a thing that I really loved in this album, you know, outside of, like, I think the songwriting across the board is fantastic, but bringing back those progressive elements, the stuff that you heard in doses on the albums post Crack the Sky, but Crack the Sky definitely brought. Gobblers, of course, I've already talked about that one, but Sickle and Peace and The Beast.
The country ballad.
This is such a wild batch of songs. When you get to Sickle and Peace, it kind of dances around in this like proggy clean melody that's just really pretty and delivers this absolutely monstrous chorus, but this is just kind of an interesting like moody piece, and it kind of has this really cool ebb and flow to it. And then The Beast, as he brought up, country elements. This one definitely screams a Brent Hines song.
Yes, Brent wrote this for sure.
Honestly, it's the first time he appears on this album if you're listening to the discs and tracks in order. It's very different, but I kind of like it. It kind of reminded me of that sort of more experimental nature they had on Crack the Sky, which is still probably my favorite, though this one's creeping up there.
Man.
But in terms of like how the song flows, like bringing in those different elements and working it into their sound, and then having this giant progressive bridge where you really don't know where it's going to go, I don't know, it has that really cool callback to it, and I think it's just a creative song.
Another really interesting track that had some uniqueness to it, and actually I don't think I hear this style or instrumentation anywhere else on the album. That would be Dagger. What makes Dagger a little bit different is there is a lot of tribal beats and tribal type instruments going on, obscure strings and drums and things like that, that really kind of gave it, you know, like a tribal kind of a feel to it and made it a really cool standout track. It also had the nice Pink Floyd keys in it as well.
I like that track because it's like a slow build. Like a lot of these, like, you know, big explosive intro and then into these different movements. This one kind of just paced itself and kept getting stronger as it went along. And all the backup percussion was done by Dave Witt of Municipal Waste, Burnt by the Sun, and a litany of other badass bands because he's a badass drummer too. And I don't know, like, it has an interesting feel. And then as another guest, we have a mutual favorite of ours from a mutual favorite band. Soundgarden's Kim Thale appears in the song Had It All, which I tell you what, feels like a dark 90s grunge song anyway. Like, if you threw on Chris Cornell's vocals on there,
it'd be a banger.
I mean, but I will settle for Troy and Braun. They did a great job on this.
But even they would tell you,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's Chris Cornell.
He was something special.
He was.
Now, a really cool element to this album as a whole is the balance of disc 1 versus disc 2. Now, I'm not sure if that was intentional, but in pre-discussion before recording this video, we discussed how the first album really feels like it is something brand new from the band. There's a lot of brand new elements, new vocal melodies, new songwriting structures, all of that. Brand new, awesome. Disc 2 still has some of those newer features, but disc 2 kind of feels more like traditional Mastodon.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is some of the older song structures, and not to take anything away from them, they're still solid, absolutely solid, but the second disc feels like something you're a little more familiar with when you put on a Mastodon album. The first one feels like, man, this could be the new direction of Mastodon going forward.
And it's kind of a curious case because, I mean, honestly, the last studio release was the last EP they put out, and that was decidedly softer. And honestly, I wasn't sure we were going to get on this album, and we got well beyond that, like, holy shit, this is a really incredible double discer. But I like the fact that you get, you know, the big adventure and some familiarity. Like, there's a nice little kind of balance of, like, well, this is new, and I got to process it, versus, like, you know, hey, this is kind of comfortable. And this does have songs that definitely call back to, like, the post-Crack the Sky stuff, which I really like, too. Tear Drinker and Pushing the Tides both have, you know, kind of a familiar song structure. Granted, Pushing the Tides is a little bit more on the heavy, dissonant side, but Tear Drinker is pretty much what a Mastodon single should be. You know, if you want, you know, just a solid, concise Mastodon song just that's big enough for the radio, it's perfect. It's got a great, you know, hook in the chorus, great melodies, and it's just, you know, appropriately sing-songy too. But again, it's unmistakably Mastodon, so you're not like, well, what the hell is this pussy band doing on the radio? You don't have to worry about that with Mastodon. Mastodon knows how to write great songs, and they showed it in double form on this. Holy shit. And there's a lot of stuff I want to bring up on this, but this review would end up being like 40 minutes long. But I mean, you have thrashy moments in Savage Lands. They haven't been thrashy maybe ever. They've been sludgy and heavy, but not that. More Than I Can Chew somehow manages to be one of the heaviest tracks on here, and at the same time, one of the most melodic. So just showing off that they have pretty much everything in their wheelhouse. And yeah, I think we're going to have to just kind of start summing this up with wow. Yeah.
Yeah, wow is absolutely right. So as far as a ranking goes, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. I think this is a fantastic listen. I think they had two things going up against them. Number one, Mastodon has never released an album longer than an hour. It's true, I looked it up. Number two, they haven't put out anything in about 4 years.
Yep.
However, a lot has gone on in their personal lives, and usually when that happens, as Nick pointed out in the beginning of the video, they usually rise to the occasion and create some incredible music. This was absolutely no exception. This might be the strongest performance since Crack the Sky, and even upon just the initial listen, I could not believe how blown away I was with enjoyment and with new things from a band that's been around doing this for so long. So 5 out of 5. If you're a fan of Mastodon at all, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't enjoy this album.
I am going to agree. This is a 5-star album, and I'm really stingy with 5-star ratings, so yeah, no, I mean it. I was completely immersed in this, the themes, the atmosphere, the riffs, the songwriting. This is the best thing they put out since Crack the Sky, in my opinion, and I love, you know, those albums in between. I think they're really good. This is on another level. I don't know, like something just completely poured out of them in the studio in terms of songwriting and recording. Like, this has so much emotion behind it. And it's super intelligent and proggy, so you get all the brains and all the heart, and you get 2 discs worth of awesome stuff. And this doesn't feel super long. This actually is 2 discs worth of material that I would gladly sit down and listen to over and over again. It doesn't drag. You get tons of different songs on here. And again, I think we're entering possibly a new era of Mastodon. Like, you know, maybe this, you know, era post Crack the Sky is its own separate thing, and this is kind of kicking off a new one. We won't know until they release another album, but Technically, you released 2. You can take some time off and tour on this thing.
Probably why they did it.
Yeah, let's see this. I want to hear these live. This is flat out incredible. If you're a Mastodon fan and you've been kind of wishy-washy for maybe stuff post Crack the Sky, or you kind of just wanted to hear a little bit of that older sound again, this is for you. Get it. It's absolutely remarkable. I am kind of just legit blown away because I wasn't sure they had this in them. I am an idiot for doubting them. Holy shit. You guys fucking did it, and you get probably my only 5-star review of the year. So yeah, this might be my album of the year. It's fucking incredible. Holy shit. Thank you, Mastodon.
So, if you like the review, please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. It will notify you of when we release cool videos, which is pretty much on the daily. And the likes, well, we like likes, so we like to like, so like. Also, if you'd like to support us shitheads, down below is a link for our Patreon. We would greatly appreciate any and all. Also, if you'd like to get your hands on one of our Thralls of Metal digs, please send an email to thrallsofmetal@gmail.com with the header of shirts, and we will send you an invoice. So on behalf of the rest of the Thralls and myself, Godspeed, Little Doodle. Take care.